you only have to look at the hits that are on YouTube and so forth. But when you utter those immortal words about any boss who gives his worker the sack today is a bum, it's been replayed and replayed a million. Did you realise at the time that this would become part of Australian folklore?
No. It was completely spontaneous and unthought of, and I'm very proud of it in one way. Very disappointed that all the other many brilliant things I've said and never mentioned. What's the most brilliant thing Hawke ever said? It's the bum one. I tell you what, any boss who sacks anyone for not turning up today is a bum.
That's telling him.
Out of the next day to make up. Look, let me finish up on a light note. I think one of the things that is involved in your question, which is so thrilling for us all, that in a very real sense, it wasn't just a magnificent sporting achievement, but they reflected the Australian spirit, the irreverence. There's something about the Australian character. So I'll just tell you a story, which is also a boating story, which captures the Australian irreverence. There's three blokes. Some of you have heard the story, but it just captures the thought. Three blokes, a Frenchman, an Englishman, an Aussie. And hiking in the Andes in the middle of summer. It's about 45 bloody degrees. Sweating like pigs. They get to the top of this mountain, they look down, and there's this most beautiful, pristine lagoon. They go scrambling down the side of the mountain, get their gear off and dive in. Oh, bloody marvellous. The natives come and grab them, take them to the chief. The chief says, "You have broken most sacred law. This is our most sacred site. For this you die. When we kill you, we take off skin. Out of skin make canoes. Put canoes on lake. Permanent reminder to all people, never infringe our most sacred site. Tie them up." They tie him up. He says to the Frenchman, "Before you die, you have one last wish. What's your last wish?" He said, I would like a knife. So they bring him knife. He says, I'm not going to die at the hands of you savages. Vive la France. And over he goes. Then he says to the Englishman, "What your last wish?" "You like my friend from across the channel? I do like a knife." Bring him a knife, and he says, "You like my friend from across the channel? I too am not going to die at the hands of you savages. Go and save the Queen." Then say to the Aussie, "What your last wish?" He says, "I want a fork." So they bring him a fork and he goes, "There goes your fucking canoe." You had the same sort of irreverence.
That's the next line for posterity.
There's another YouTube hit coming your way.
You what? Another one?
That's your next line for posterity.
I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. And none of it rehearsed.
I haven't had this much fun since I worked with Graham Kennedy, I tell you.
I've never had so much fun since Graham Kennedy.
And of course I can be live and I can go, "Fuck."
There might be a bit of snow on the roof, but the fire hasn't gone out, has it?
I love it. What do you think, Jill?
Alan, you were once my boss, and you were a good boss, and I really enjoyed the period of time we had with you. I bought shares in a Hyundai, okay. But I do want to say, what I did always admire about you, I remember Fremantle, 87, we lost the cup and you needed a lift across the water to the presentation area, you and Warren, and the place was just packed with boats and you could not move, and we had a dinghy with a little motorboat on it. It was basically designed for two people, and we had a camera crew, myself and a soundo. And Alan and Warren, you may not remember this, no hesitation whatsoever, jumped in this little dinghy, and it was at about that much water before it would sunk. And I thought to myself, this is a man of the people, and this is what we loved about what they did with the America's Cup. There was such an irreverence that you never rested on the pomposity that we saw in other challenges, and you brought that to the table. And I want to thank you on behalf of everybody who's turned up here today, because it's been a magic part of Australian sporting history. Bob, I should call you Mr. Prime Minister or Mr. Hawke, but now that you've dropped the F-bomb, I feel I can call you Bob.
Now you dropped that bomb.
But I want to thank you for just being you. Yeah. And it's been wonderful having you here today. John, your part in Australian sporting history is now well documented, and you should be very proud of that. And I know you are. I mean, you're a great motivator, and you enjoyed your triumph, but you also understand that with triumph comes the occasional challenge of a loss. And what you've got to remember, obviously, too, is this, and I mean this to anybody who competes at the highest level. I always remember Mark Taylor when he was getting his runabouts and not getting any runs, and people wanted to sack him. And he was a great captain, but he wasn't getting any runs, and he got that 300-odd in Pakistan. Then he called it quits, and he declared. Everyone thought he didn't want to go past Bradman's record, but in fact he declared because it was the team thing to do. And I said to Mark many years later, I said, Mark, these are the positive things, the great sporting things, moments have for an Australian public. If you take that sort of fight into your everyday work life, it's a positive effect on both ourselves, our children, and our future leaders. And the other thing that you've got to remember is that elite sportsmen, they're called elite sportsmen because they do things that we can't do. That's why we admire you so much. And today, it's a fitting tribute to you. And Mr. Hawke has obviously done this many, many times over, but each time he does it with gusto, because he obviously also, like me, appreciates what the purity of sport can do for the Australian nation. And you did that 30 years ago, and we relive it today, and we'll relive it again in 30 years' time. Thank you very much. 3 champions, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Hawke, Alan Bond, John Bertrand. Stand for them, you can, and stand for the Australia 2 crew too. They're there, and where you are at your tables. You gave us wonderful moments, and we appreciate it.
And of course I can be live, and I can go back.